This is the Awful Announcing Podcast. Here's your host, Brandon Contes.
Alrighty, welcome to episode 112 of the Awful Announcing Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Contes, and this week we were joined by former Chicago Bears Pro Bowler and current CBS NFL analyst Kyle Long. With the Chicago Bears losing a heartbreaker to the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football in Week 1, and then seeing them in the news after some new reporting on how Caleb Williams' rookie season went, it was interesting to get Kyle's thoughts on just how things are going in Chicago right now and how the Chicago Bears fans are responding to the direction that the franchise is heading. We discussed Kyle growing up around the Fox NFL Sunday crew with his dad, Howie, starring on that show since its inception. We discussed how Kyle ended up choosing football over baseball after getting drafted by the Chicago White Sox when he was younger. We also discussed Kyle's relationship with Travis Kelce, being a teammate with Jay Cutler in Chicago, as well as some of the differences between the way Jay and Patrick Mahomes operate, with Kyle Long getting to see both up close. It was a fun conversation with Kyle Long, who I think is one of the up-and-coming voices in NFL media. So please make sure you rate and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you also subscribe to Awful Announcing's YouTube page and enjoy this week's episode of the Awful Announcing Podcast with guest Kyle Long. All right, he is a former NFL player for the Chicago Bears. Now he's a media personality with CBS. You can see him on the Pushing the Pile podcast and Sunday mornings on the NFL Today Plus. He is Kyle Long. Kyle, thanks so much for joining us on the Awful Announcing Podcast today as we move into week 2 of the NFL season. I love week 1. Like I love the start of the NFL season. I also love the week 1 overreactions. Like the championship windows have closed on the Chiefs and the Lions already. Bo Nix is slumping. Aaron Rodgers is an MVP again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the most interesting ones was the Bears getting booed off the field after losing to the Vikings on Monday Night Football. So did the Bears deserve to be booed off the field? We'll start there.
I wouldn't use the D word. I wouldn't use the deserve word. But the frustration I can empathize with the Chicago Bears fans, because it feels like we've seen this movie before with different names and different years, but it's the same product, a team that has high hopes in the offseason. And obviously we talk about this week 1 overreaction. And I've been pumping up the Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson balloon all offseason. And, when you first joined the Zoom to do the pod, I was like, I'm still recovering from all the holes that were poked in the balloons that I blew up this offseason. Being booed off Soldier Field is not something I'm a stranger to, unfortunately. So if you're new to the Bears, there is a fan base there that cares greatly about their team, and you'd rather a team boo than just leave. A fan base, you'd rather have them boo you than just leave. Quite frankly, it's like the old adage as a coach: if I'm not talking to you, if I'm not coaching you, that's when you're in probably a tough spot.
Yeah. So obviously a new head coach, young quarterback still with Caleb Williams. Can you blame the fans though for like kind of saying, I mean, again, it's one game, 1 week, but can you blame them for saying, here we go again, and like taking this more of a believe it when I see it approach to Ben Johnson?
I'm still in the believe it when I see it, and it's not with Ben Johnson, because what I saw from Ben Johnson was a game plan that made sense to me early and often. He allowed Caleb Williams to get to his checkdowns. The big gripe with Caleb last year was he held on to the ball too damn long. He's back there having a barbecue, 68 sacks, I believe it was. It is a non-starter if you are going to build out a game plan, build out a season-long game plan. Sacks numbers can not be that high. It just ruins your opportunities to win ball games. So that was one thing I was looking for. And Ben Johnson smartly allowed his quarterback to get through his progressions quickly and get to the check down early. But when they started making changes, that Minnesota Vikings defense, you were looking at opportunities to throw the football down the field. And for whatever reason, Caleb did not look as relaxed as I would have anticipated. But there were some good things. in the game, and there were certainly some bad things, including the accuracy issues, which is time will tell whether or not Ben Johnson can fix the technical aspect, or if I never played quarterback, but I was a pitcher, and there were some times where I could not find the strike zone. And I threw 97 miles an hour. You think that's good enough, but you got to hit the mitt. You don't want to hit the mascot like Bull Durham.
Joe Buck had saw the way the Bears lost to the Vikings, obviously Monday night. He saw the fans boo the Bears at the end of the game, but he still, after the game, he said that he thought the fans left that game feeling optimistic about the direction the team is headed. Do you
It's a sick and twisted world we live in as Bears fans. And I agree with Joe Buck because you could see the energy and the chaos with which Dennis Allen's defense played with early. A lot of the question marks that people had about the defensive side of the ball were answered, albeit in a game with injuries against one of the best skill groups in football. And I thought they held up their end of the bargain. The issue obviously came in the second half of the game where the running game got out of hand for the defense, for the Bears, and it turned into a giant 4-minute mode at the end of the game. And everybody in the stadium knew the run was coming and they couldn't stop it. But like I said, you never get guys wide open catching the football in the end zone in the National Football League. Roma Dunze was wide open in the back of the end zone down there in the low red. Some of the things that Ben showed, they lead me to believe that there's some good stuff coming schematically down the pipeline. We just got to have our quarterback kind of catch up a little bit. We have to have this offensive line be able to run the football. If you can't run the football effectively, then Ben Johnson's superpower, the play action game, getting guys open downfield, it can't come to fruition, dude.
What have Bears fans like? Do they like Caleb Williams? Have they embraced him?
I think the Bears fans love all of their quarterbacks deep down, and they also expect those same people they love to rip their hearts out.
Yeah.
And it's a recurring theme.
It's what they're used to.
Since I got to Chicago with Jay Cutler, supremely talented. But there were some blind spots. And we also didn't match production defensively there at the beginning when we had Cutler. And that was the Trestman era. We broke a lot of records offensively. Jay was great. We had a lot of skilled players, but it wasn't the complete package. Trubisky, obviously, the mile-high expectations for a draft pick, the comparisons to the guys that were in his draft class that the Bears passed on. That's a natural starting point for a conversation and tension and anxiety in a building. So there's things working against all these situations. Justin Fields, obviously, the football team wasn't ready to win when we had Justin Fields. And I tip my cap to him. He looked great this past week, and I hope he continues to have success. But what I'm saying is we love these guys. I follow Jay Cutler to this day. I follow Justin Fields every week. I watch him. Mitch Trubisky and I keep in touch. He was, a great dude. And I think we have the same feeling about Caleb Williams. But I think there's something else there with Caleb Williams, and that's what people want to see tapped into, and we haven't seen it yet.
Are you surprised that the nail painting still seems to be like a big thing?
He's going to die on that hill, isn't he? It's like, there's some things where it's like, regardless of public perception, I will not change it. And I'm okay with that. As a matter of fact, I think I respect him more for it as somebody who is just disregarding the outside noise. Look, it's a different time. And I can tell you that in 2013, there was probably no guys that painted their fingernails, but it's 2025. And yeah, man, I'm just trying to stay with the times, Brandon. I just want to make sure that I'm with the times because he's got superstar ability. Yeah. And the creative part of his game is what I fell in love with the most. The off schedule throws, off balance, but he has found a way to make balanced pocket on schedule throws look off schedule. And now I'm kind of the smell isn't so good anymore. It used to be good. Now I'm like, we got to figure out how to fix this dish. Yeah,
no, it's just, I thought it was something that people were going to kind of move on from quickly, but it still seems to be like an odd criticism of him. In this era of the NFL, how How is it possible that the Bears have not had a quarterback that has thrown for 4,000 yards or 30 touchdowns?
Well, this is taking what you said verbatim. Yes, you are right. We have not had a passer for that volume. But 2013, I think it was 4,300 yards passing for the Bears. Josh McCown, I think, had 8 games. Jay Cutler had 8 games. It can be done. I've seen it. But you know what the thing that stands out to me about 2013 is? 5 guys played the entire season, didn't miss a snap for the Bears on the offensive line. A lot of those guys were vets. I was a young rookie player on that team, but I always thought that was normal. And then I found out through my career that is far from normal. And I look at a team like Buffalo, and they're able to keep their offensive line together on the field and healthy. You see what it does to the run game. You see how it can open things up. That's O-line matters.
What did you think of the Tyler Dunne House of Dysfunction series on the Bears?
It really seems like Tyler Dunne is enjoying this process, and he seems to be intoxicated by the response. I would say that it's indicative of a bad football team, and that's exactly what the Bears were last year, and that's why you have to clean house and put on the Monsters Inc. hazmat suits and clean everything up. And it's still getting cleaned up. Look, Jim Harbaugh is one of the best culture setters in the National Football League, and he went to Los Angeles, a team that had a lot of questions about him from the culture standpoint, ability to win big games, and we're seeing them rid themselves of that stench. I saw the Bears rid themselves of some stuff on Monday night, but there's still that stench, pre-snap penalties, errant throws, poor technique. We got to see some of that stuff get figured out.
So the report kind of like it paints Caleb Williams as maybe entitled and lazy. Does it put extra pressure on him this season with something like that coming out right before the season starts?
The timing's never good on any of these articles, but I would imagine that it does put more pressure on a young player to go out there and perform. I remember when I was playing and I was dealing with injury, and I just tried to keep practicing and keep playing. I wasn't producing. I was getting beat a lot. I remember I sat out, and Mongo McMichael, rest in peace to Mongo, he said on the radio, if anybody's out there, if they can find Kyle Long's man card, bring it to him. And I remember feeling challenged as more than a football player. And I feel like this article stepped outside the lines. And part of me says it's unfair. Part of me tips my cap to strong old school journalism, muckraking, as it were. I respect the game, but it's not for me.
Well, what about it steps outside the lines?
Well, obviously I understand the inclination to say that a quarterback is entitled, because let's be honest, it's their world. We're all living in it. But along the same lines of the Shedeur Sanders conversations, where you can imagine this person based on what you've seen in headlines and clips. And Brandon, you know how it goes. I mean, I'm educated in 10-second clips all day online, and I'm supposed to formulate some sort of persona or opinion of these players based on that. When you're hearing from these folks in the Tyler Dunne article, you have to understand where they are now. And I would venture to guess that a lot of them are not with him now. So he went into a broken home last year, Brandon. It was a shitty situation for anybody. I don't care if you are as cool, collected, cerebral, mentally tough, cool, all that stuff. It wasn't cool last year, man.
Yeah. How did the Chicago media treat the Bears when you were playing there?
I always found that the Chicago media was very honest, and they didn't want to spoon feed their fan base bullshit, because they don't deserve that. They deserve the real thing. It's one of the few places that really it's not just all the wealthy folks that go to the games. Like, this is as blue collar and connected with the population of the city as any in the country. And they love football, and they're smart, and they've been around great football. And you can't lie to these folks. And there's a few people that did it incredibly well and made you feel uncomfortable at times in the media. But I think that some of those conversations prepared me to have conversations after I was done playing.
Did you know that you wanted to be in media when you were playing? Like, obviously you saw what your dad was doing, having tremendous success at Fox. Was this always the plan for you?
Well, the original plan was go be a Major League Baseball player for 20 years, and I managed to mess that one up. And then I ended up playing football and got lucky. And about 3 years in, I said I want to play for 10, 12 years and then disappear. After a couple of Pro Bowls, I was feeling good about where I was at. And then the injuries started to stack up. And I started going to the podium a lot because I was a tenured player in Chicago, and there weren't many of us left because there was so much turnover every year.
Yeah.
And I found myself being the guy that went to the podium a lot and the guy that got requested in the media a lot. And I found that it was kind of cathartic week in, week out to be able to be the mouthpiece for an organization that was going through some really hard times. And I think that the fans appreciated that. And I fell in love with that part of it.
Mm.
And now I get to hang out in everybody's living rooms on Sunday. And it's a dream come true. To your point, I grew up in the studio at Fox. Those guys treated me like family. I love watching the game, but I'm also watching it differently because I watch the studio shows differently than most, I would say.
You're doing the NFL Today Plus. That's 2 hours every Sunday, right? 10 a.m. to noon Eastern.
Yep. It's Matt Ryan, Antonio Pierce, Amanda Guerra. We've obviously got guests to pull from with Nate Burleson, Bill Cowher, JJ Watt. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. And it's brand new. So check us out.
Yeah, I know it's only been 1 week, but how does it compare to that other pregame show?
It's completely different. At that other pregame show, which was a fantastic way to get yourself ready for the full slate of Sundays. It was 8 to noon every Sunday. We had a lot of runway to be able to let it air out. Obviously, with 2 hours, we're tighter. It's action-packed the entire time. For some of these primetime games where the NFL Today crew is on the road, let's say call it Kansas City, Buffalo, we'll also be there because our quarterback's Matt Ryan, and we don't do remote quarterbacking. So I need my guy with me because I'm not going to command the huddle. Antonio Pierce is awesome, and he was born in around 78, so he's just outside my jurisdiction of like my brother played with him and yada yada yada. Getting to know Antonio Pierce has been a pleasure. Matt Ryan could be anybody's CEO, but he's also a consummate football badass and loves the game so much. And he's so intense about it. It reminds me of talking ball with my dad. And you get to be around so many greats, but it's a fun show, fan interaction, live stream. So there's like tweets popping up or X's popping up in the overlay, and we get to respond, and they talk smack the whole time. It seems like, Brandon.
And then Matt goes to the NFL Today after that on CBS at noon. So your show ends. Like, what are you watching after your show ends? Are you sticking with CBS? Do you watch Matt Ryan? Are you checking out what your dad is up to over at Fox?
I'm always watching those guys, and I always have been. This year, I have something unique coming down the pipe. Brandon, you're the first one to know about this. I'll be doing some voiceover video highlights for CBS
cool.
that will live on YouTube and the streaming worlds. I'm going to be doing that after the slate is done in New York. So I'll be in studio. Obviously, Adam Shine's been doing a great job doing in-game updates, but I get to do when it's midnight and you get home from your night shift and you want to see what happened, I'm going to tell you the story, and I can't wait to do that.
You mentioned kind of growing up in the studio. So like, were you around those guys at Fox a lot? Like
Uncle Terry?
Uncle Terry?
That's Uncle Terry, man. That's Uncle Terry. Those people been very good to me and my family. They've been very good to us. And I'll never forget being a young boy, not being aware of the people that I was really around and the greatness that was on that desk, and them just treating me like one of their own always. Yeah. And I appreciate that. And I'll never forget how it's supposed to feel on a desk, and it's supposed to feel like family, and you want to let them into what you're actually feeling. You don't want it to be staged. And we're getting some of that over here, and we're really excited.
So the off-air chemistry over there, seeing that between them at Fox, that was the same as what we saw and see on air.
Yeah, you have to remind those guys that the camera's on. You're like, hey guys, just to let you know, we are recording, and they're like, keep it rolling. Like we're just doing, and that's that's what everybody sets out to do in media, right?
Sure.
It's like we want it to feel like a hangout,
right?
Well, me, Antonio, and Matt and Amanda, like we hang out. It's real.
Yeah.
Same thing with those guys. Dad and Terry shared a dressing room. Like they have like a big locker room style for those guys when they first got over to Fox. And obviously they've had massive upgrades throughout the decades that they've been together, but they like refuse to split up. They're like Terry's locker, Dad's locker. They got the couch and the TV. And that's where I used to take a nap as a little boy. It's where I come now and pack a dip on their couch. If I ever go to Fox, I'll go hang out in there.
Yeah, well, that's cool that you're able to see it up close, and then now it's something that you could try to replicate for CBS in your own way. Your dad has been with Fox since the inception of the Fox NFL Sunday Show. Like, I think it's crazy. Because it's more than 30 years, but like your dad does not look like he's aged at all. Like I don't think people even realize that.
There's that guy who like takes vials of his son's blood to look younger. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The guy that's like pasty white guy. I'm always like, maybe Dad had the advanced scouting of that guy's information, because you're right. I mean, he lives right. I've never seen a guy more consistent with just his sleeping habits, the way he is throughout the day, his exercises. I mean, he's like 66 years old. He's down there crushing like curls and tricep pull downs. I have to remind him, I'm like, dude, nobody's going to call you to come play, buddy. Okay. But you can see some guys take care of themselves, like, and they look fantastic. I look at Strahan every week. I'm like, damn, you could still go. Matt Ryan looks like he could still throw for 4,500 yards.
For sure. How was it growing up? How was your dad as a football parent?
He was as chill and supportive and never pushy ever. I mean, my older brother, Chris, was the one that was like, I want to play football. I want to be on the basketball team, soccer team. I was like, I like baseball. I think basketball, I like it. I get tired running around. And he's like, don't worry about it. Have fun. Make friends. You know what I'm saying? And then when my younger brother, Howie, who was a year younger than me, was slated to become the varsity quarterback at the private school, I switched from the public school to the private school and started playing football. And it was because my dad was kind of like, hey, you've always thought about playing football. Now would be a good time to come over, and I'll show you how to play tackle, and I'll teach you how to line up at the, and rush the passer. And it was like immediately I put the helmet on, dude. And I knew I was protecting somebody I cared about, and I knew my teammates would benefit from me being out there, and I had a lot of fun. And he never asked me to do anything that was crazy. He just was like, he always reminded me that you can, rely on your athleticism, and when you can, let your freak flag fly. That's what he always used to say.
So how old were you when you started playing football?
I came out for one game in middle school, and I had to wear the black stripe on my helmet. In the first play of the game, I was a defensive tackle. I ran right by the center, and I took the handoff, and I scored a touchdown. And they told me the touchdown didn't count because I was above the weight limit. And I told my parents after the game, I quit. And that's when I went, and I was like, I was a pitcher at the time, so I was used to having the ball. And I took about 6-7 years away from football, and then got back into it in high school, and it was like a duck to water, man.
And then you got drafted by the White Sox. So what happened to your baseball career?
So I went to Florida State, and I got drafted out of high school, and I pretty much told the White Sox that, or any of these teams, I'm going to go to college. I'm not like in an immediate need for cash, and going to school is important to me. Went to Florida State, and then I forgot that going to school is important for me, and I joined a fraternity and had a blast. And if you've ever been to Tallahassee, I mean, you can't blame me. I had a lot of fun. It was my first time being away from home. First time getting out of the shadow of my older brother, who went to University of Virginia right across the street from my high school, where, I don't know if you guys know this, but, he was a pretty good football player, and people knew his name. So I was Kyle, the baseball player, and I had a damn good summer. And the end of that was I got in some trouble at home. I had a DUI over holiday break.
Yeah.
During my freshman year, and I never made it back to school. Took some time away, went out west. I needed new people, places, things, and went out west, had some family connections out there, and they were kind of able to usher me in the right direction. And I ended up in junior college, and I was working at a surf shop, Jack Surfboards in Newport Beach. Shout out to the Peninsula. Shout out to Gomi, my manager. Started playing football from there, junior college, and then Chip saw me practice, and I had 1 year of eligibility. He offered me. I played for Chip.
So why did you end up not trying to continue baseball elsewhere, though? What made you want to make that?
So this is a funny story. I had and if anybody's ever been in recovery, they know what I had a manager, like a case manager, sponsor, and somebody that holds you accountable and helps you set goals. If you're trying to get a job, get back on your feet, they can say, I can know a guy down here at Lowe's and I can get you in here. He got me my gig at Jack Surfboards. And after I was enrolled in school and working for, I think it was 3 months, it was like, all right, now you can do something extracurricular, like baseball, like football. And I hadn't thought about sports because I was so concerned about just like feeling like myself again. And because I had been through a really rough patch that was, brought on by myself, but I had to dig myself out of this hole now. And the clock's ticking on the NCAA. My opportunities, if I want to get back into sports, are dwindling by the day, literally. And my sponsor, Austin, we were coming up with a decision whether to go and try to play football or try to play baseball, because I knew I could go out there and throw 96. Like I could roll out of bed and do that. But I also really missed football. And he said, let's flip a coin. And we flipped a coin. And if it lands on tails, we get to go kick some ass and play football. And if it lands on heads, we're going to use our head and go play baseball. It landed on tails. I think it was the next week I was at Saddleback College's summer conditioning program, which was just pickup basketball, by the way. And I got undercut by a guy. We got in a fight. I didn't go back until training camp, and I was really considering just not going. I was not in the mental space yet. But then when the season came along, Mark McElroy called me, the head coach. He's like a Norm Chow disciple, Andy Reid, like those old heads from BYU. Mark McElroy, big time, spread it out offense. He was like, I need you to come play for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm the OC. And I played the first year, and I played defense, and I was a backup because we ran a very advanced 3-3-5. My contain rules, I threw them out the window. I was just trying to win. And I got benched, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me as an athlete. Shout out to Steve Crapo, defensive coordinator. And Mark McElroy, the head coach, the OC, finally got his way, and I moved to offensive tackle. And that's when the Ducks saw me, and that's why I had an opportunity to play at the next level.
So it was all from a coin flip. Like a coin flip is what ended up sending you to this having this football
It was
career.
a quarter, and it was when they started making those quarters that were like alternate jerseys. So it was like Rhode Island or like, I forget what state it was, but we flipped one of those, and it was like 2010. Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. Do you have like the what if thoughts and think about if it was heads and what could have happened with a baseball career then?
Yeah, I have a unique network now of people that I can speak to about this kind of thing. And one guy that I talk to a lot about it is the Boston Red Sox announcer, Will Middlebrooks, who was a Super Bowl or was a World Series champion for the Red Sox.
Yeah.
But if you go back in history, he was who was his running back from Texarkana, Oregon Ducks? LaMichael James was his running back in high school. And Will Middlebrooks was a bad boy at quarterback. He could have played anywhere. He went to play baseball, had a career-ending ankle injury like I did in football.
Yeah.
And we always say, either way, we'd be sitting here with one another having a beer and bitching about our old bodies, okay?
Are you a baseball fan still? Like,
It's hard for me to watch because it was my first love.
Yeah.
It would be like I would imagine whenever Bieber sees a picture of Selena with her new guy and she looks really happy.
And then, so obviously now so the coin flip happens. You play in college, you play the NFL, and here you are now. You're an NFL analyst for CBS. Is studio work what you want to do? Are you interested in calling
I'm
games?
trying everything, Brandon. I'm trying everything, and I give my wife Kate as much credit as anybody, because they always say, but behind a man who's going and doing some stuff that looks hard is usually a woman who supports him through everything and probably nudges him to go do a little bit more because she believes in him. And that's been my experience with CBS. I started out just doing Sunday pregame. Now I do Monday through Thursday with HQ in Fort Lauderdale, go to New York for Sunday show. Now I'm doing highlights. I'm calling 2 college games for CBS Sports this fall.
Oh, okay.
In October, I'm doing San Jose State, Utah State, and I'm doing Delaware, Western Kentucky. So all new stuff for me, but what's the worst that can happen, Brandon? You know what I'm saying? And let's go have some fun and talk some football.
Have you called games before?
Never. In my living room.
Yeah.
You know what? I did. I got an opportunity to call a game. It wasn't live. It was at the broadcast boot camp put on by Jerry Madelon. And Jerry Madelon does a fantastic job bringing the best in the business and giving NFL players and NFL alumni opportunities to sharpen their swords and try on a couple different pairs of pants in the media. One of those pairs of pants was calling a game. I fell in love with it. And now here we are.
Did you watch the YouTube broadcast? And I asked because I saw your brother Chris had some strong feelings on that.
Chris, strong feelings? Go figure. Look, the same conversation we had about the fingernails, dude. It's we're gonna see a lot of Mr. Beast. We're gonna see a lot of iShowSpeed. Check your scroll through TikTok once and try not to see either of those people. Chris is the best. He's almost the best at the old man yelling at cloud in the business. And he's like a 70-year-old, 40-year-old. And if you know Chris at all, it's an endearing quality of his. But it doesn't bother me. I mean,
have you gotten the chance to apologize to Stephen A. Smith in person yet? What was that story? You confronted him at an ESPN.
And I forget which one of my quarterback. It might have been Jay Cutler. This was 2015. I think I was probably an All-Pro, and I got invited to a party I probably shouldn't have been at. And I walked up to Stephen A. Smith, and he had said, SAS gets on these quarterbacks. And God, I love and respect Stephen A. now, and I know what goes into being Stephen A. Smith, and I can't imagine doing that day in, day out. But at the time, I didn't. And I walked up to him and I was like, "Big guy, hey, big guy." This, I think I put my arm around him, but gave him a little bit of, I was like, "This is from Jay Cutler." He looked at me like, "If you don't get your hands off of me, somebody's going to jack you up."
Do you think he knew who you were?
Probably not. But years later, my older brother and I did an interview, a live podcast with him at South by Southwest.
Oh, okay.
And we got to yuck it up a little bit about that. It was fun. He's a good sport.
So that Jay Cutler was probably your teammate at that point.
Oh yeah.
How was I'm pretty sure I know Stephen A. was definitely pretty hard on Cutler because I think I remember.
Who wasn't, man?
Yeah, that's true. I remember the Brandon Marshall and Stephen A. had a thing with over Jay Cutler. At one point, it was near the end of Cutler. I think it was Cutler's last season with the Bears. Brandon Marshall predicted that Cutler was going to be an MVP. And then
everybody needs somebody who rides for you, like Brandon Marshall rides for Jay Cutler.
I think Cutler, that he played 5 games or something that season. Was not.
I think I blocked for Jimmy Clausen that season.
Yeah. And then a few years later, Marshall went back onto First Take with Stephen A. and he said that Cutler was a bad quarterback overall. How was Brandon Marshall as a teammate?
Tough. First hug I got when I got drafted by the Bears in the locker room was Brandon Marshall. He always treated me well, and I was in awe of the things that he could do physically with the football on his hand.
How was Cutler as a teammate?
Cutler was probably, as you would imagine, as a teammate. He is reserved. He is extremely bright, and he is supremely talented and gifted in the arm and leg department. I think that a lot of guys give up after the first time they try to go up and be buddy with him, and it doesn't work. I was a 23, 24-year-old who didn't know any better, and I just bothered the shit out of him until he was like, roasted chicken tonight at our house. I got a spot at the table for you if you want. It's like, there's my guy right there. Like you got to work for this stuff, man.
Did Cutler seem like a personality, like somebody that could potentially be a good analyst and have a good media career? Because he signed the deal with Fox to work with Kevin Burkhardt, and then he opted to play with the Dolphins instead. And that was kind of it. Like he never made his way back to the media from that.
I don't think there's the only thing that Jay Cutler can't do is be fake. And if that answers, I mean, he would be a great analyst.
Yeah.
And there might be times where people go, ooh, he probably shouldn't have said that. But it's like, that's what people want to hear, man.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Who was the best quarterback to be around as a teammate?
Best quarterback to be around as a teammate was Patrick Mahomes. There's something there's a gravitational pull that comes off of him. There is, they always say the tide that rises all ships. Well, you know that he's on your team, you play better, because particularly at the offensive line, because you know what's at stake. And he was, as a 8th year, 9th year guy that was a free agent signing to the Kansas City Chiefs that didn't know anybody. I knew Trav. Trav's my guy. Shout out to Trav. He invited my wife and myself to everything. And not only us, everybody on the team. Every Friday, there was a place for every single family to be at, dinner, stuff that I guess I just missed in my time in Chicago, except for early in my career, Roberto Garza, the center, organized this stuff. 13-year vet. He did it the right way. When I got to Kansas City, I felt like they turned back the clock on what leadership looks like. And it was really cool. I'm glad I experienced it. And I look at the game through a different lens now at quarterbacks and leadership.
How did the Chiefs organization compare to the Bears?
Different in so many different ways. The building that I left at Hallis Hall was beautiful, immaculate, recently redone. You go to Kansas City and everything's like wood, like 1970s wood. And it looks like it's from yesteryear. And Andy Reid is too. And Patrick Mahomes is like a little Brett Favre-ish. It's hard to explain. But Kansas City was a special place. You leave the stadium and there's Kaufman right there. It's like they got that giant parking lot with all the sports. It's just like sports right there. When you're on the Bears, you're right there in the middle of the city. It's incredible, but you just feel like you're in your city. It doesn't, I don't know. Arrowhead, that place is wild. They tailgate like Lambeau. They tailgate like Buffalo there. From the minute these people arrive on Friday, they're drinking pops in the parking lot, getting ready for football. Smart fan base. They know when to cheer. It was impressive.
You mentioned that Jay was more reserved. Was Patrick more approachable?
Patrick is. You can walk right up to his locker after practice and ask him a question. Do you see the Texas Tech game or whatever? Anything. And he's a guy. He laughs with you. He hangs out with the O-line. When Chris went to New England, I would ask him about Tom all the time.
Yeah.
What's Tom like? And I still don't know what Tom's like, but I got to see what greatness looks like up close, and it's something that I won't soon forget.
And what is your relationship with Travis Kelce? You mentioned that he's your guy. How, are you getting invited to the wedding?
I'm not going to the wedding, but I am an OG Travis Kelce guy. I was cleaning out my closet yesterday and I found this. It says, my brother for life. So there you go. That's, my brother for life. But we met at the Combine in 2013 and we were both good athletes with older brothers that play that had extremely large red flags above the character on our manila folder. And him and I spent a lot of time in hallways outside of those private meeting rooms getting ready to get called into the principal's office. And I think we really had a good time doing that. And then when we reconnected so many years later, it was like picking up where we left off. And what a great teammate. Amazing vet, somebody who teaches everybody, not only tight ends, but working with receivers, and everybody see the bigger picture. Travis is an unbelievable guy.
Who was the toughest defender that you went up against?
Geno Atkins. Toughest? Okay, hold on a second, Brandon. Hold on there, B. Are you talking the toughest guy?
Toughest.
The toughest guys were Ndamukong Suh and Fletcher Cox. You could not kill those men. And I tried. Geno Atkins was the hardest guy to block.
Okay.
Because of his rare combination of God-given leverage and lateral change of direction. He would threaten your edges. And I put Chris Jones in that same department. He looks like a power rusher, but when he's at his most dangerous is when you feel threatened for power and he attacks your edges because you put your feet in the ground like a refrigerator's about to fall on you.
What about toughest environment to play in? Like how important is home field advantage?
Home field advantage is important. Toughest environment is also relative. If you're playing in Seattle against the Legion of Boom and Jimmy Clausen's in there for Jay Cutler, I would consider that a very tough spot to be as an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Lambeau is as tough a place to play as any because those fans are brilliant. You know that the quarterback on the other sideline is a guy who can bleed you out quick. And they always seem to have one playmaker. It was Clay Matthews when I came in, and the names have changed over the years, but it's always kind of the same team.
I want to go around the league just a little bit before we finish up, revisit some of those week one overreactions. So, I'll start with the Chiefs. Has the championship window closed on the Kansas City Chiefs?
No, the championship window has not closed, and we will know more when the cavalry / reinforcements do arrive out of Julie Freymeyer's training room.
What about the Detroit Lions? Was their week one loss a sign of a potential regression?
Look, that's a Super Bowl favorite there in the Green Bay Packers, but it's not without saying that, in my opinion, the reshuffling on the offensive line in Detroit is more impactful than the exodus of both coordinators. I don't care who's playing who. I don't care who is calling plays. If you've got Albert Einstein himself drawing up plays, if you can't win the A and the B gap, you are going to be in hot water. Because then you can't get to your play action shots down the field and you don't know what is working.
You mentioned earlier in the podcast Justin Fields and his debut with the Jets. Were you a believer in Fields with the Bears?
With the Bears, no. Am I a believer in Justin Fields, the athlete, the mismatch on 3rd and short, 4th down, the big-time arm talent? You betcha. And when he takes off running with that ball, there's not much you can do but pray as a defender. Just get out of the way because he is rolling. So many big plays for the Bears. Obviously, the consistency wasn't there, but the consistency wasn't there across the board for them. They're building a bully in New York. I liked what Engstrand was doing with this offense. I like the guys they drafted. Fashanu has looked great. Armand Membu, while raw and, not clean technically at times, he's an ass kicker, and that's what they're trying to build in New York.
I feel like if you weren't a believer in him with the Bears, which I get, but like it's hard to then be a believer in him with the Jets. Like the Jets don't exactly have the history of developing quarterbacks either.
I like Tanner, and they have invested in that offensive line.
Yes.
So you're looking at, I don't want to say apples to oranges, but apples to pears maybe.
Is a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers capable of having not winning the MVP, but having an MVP type season again, say for the first time since 2021?
Yes. you have to understand that defenses are making a comeback in the National Football League. And I know you're hard pressed to believe me after watching the Ravens and the Bills, but there are answers defensively to a lot of what we are doing offensively around the league. The defense in Pittsburgh is, I think it's the most expensive defense in football by a pretty wide margin. If those guys can stay healthy, if they can play the Mike Tomlin brand of football, we don't need to see the extremely high ceiling from Aaron Rodgers. We need to see the high floor offense of Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers team. And then you never know what can happen.
Who do you think the best team in the NFL is today? And obviously reserve the right to change that opinion.
The best team in the National Football League?
Best team.
Oh, boy. Could be Green Bay, could be Baltimore.
What team were you most impressed with after week 1?
The Chargers.
Why?
Because they just lost their all-world left tackle. So they moved their all-world baby goat right tackle to left tackle. And he looks better than the other left tackle. As a matter of fact, I think he may have been the best left tackle in week 1. They play bully ball. Greg Roman's pressing the right buttons for Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's feeling himself on and off the field. I think there's a confidence in Los Angeles knowing that there is Vegas. What's their ceiling? Kansas City, the question you asked me earlier, is this our year that we can get to Kansas City?
Yeah.
Denver, Bo Nix is telling his receivers to break it off early. Like there's a void in dominance right now in that division. I like the Chargers a lot. And obviously I'm an Oregon Duck, so I love watching Herbie.
Last thing, should the Chicago Bears build a stadium in Arlington Heights?
Yes. And I liked what Kevin Warren said about I want to find out the exact quote here, Brandon. So Kevin Warren said the Bears don't just belong to the city of Chicago. And I think that's an important distinction because when you hear Chicago Bears and you know that the Soldier Field is right there on the lakefront, it's amongst the skyline, it's iconic. But we're growing as a franchise, which is hard to believe. 1923, I think it was 1920, and still growing. New coach, new regime, new quarterback. Look, if you have the option to own the stadium, you can make so much money off of concerts, monster trucks, anything that's going on at that stadium. And also you have the benefit of this. You can say no to things. Friday night high school games on your field, Saturday games at Soldier Field. Sunday, the NFL shows up and they're like, man, the field is terrible.
Yeah.
And we pretend to be surprised every single time. It's the city's field currently, Brandon. If it's the Bears stadium, it could be awesome. It would be a city dedicated to the Bears in Arlington Heights. If you've ever been up there, if you've ever been to like the racetrack up there, which is, I think that's where it's going to be. It is like Disney for football in my imagination, what Kevin Warren's planning. It's huge. It goes from almost like the mom and pop feeling to big business, big business.
Kyle, you were great. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandon.
Of course, that is Kyle Long. I'm Brandon Contes. This is the Awful Announcing Podcast. Please rate and subscribe to this podcast. Please also subscribe to Awful Announcing's YouTube page. But regardless of how you consume Awful Announcing and the Awful Announcing Podcast, thanks for listening and be good.
Thanks for listening to the Awful Announcing Podcast. For the latest news spanning the sports media landscape and more, check out awfulannouncing.com and follow us at Awful Announcing.